There's more to life than looks. Shut your fucking mouth, cunt. Listen, we have primitive desires as people on Earth, humans, and it's all the fucking subhumans that just suppress these desires because they feel shameful or they can't fucking get them. Now listen, conquest, resources, reproduction, love, companionship. Yeah, we crave this as humans. We've evolved to. And so we know looking better is probably going to get us more of that shit. And so that's why we do it.
Man, that was such a deep point. Well, welcome back to the Alpha Male universe. Hopefully you're understanding I'm being facetious there, okay? So Looksmaxxing, it's become really trendy to talk about. I would consider this to be AMU adjacent. And we have a new character to introduce. He is in like the Looksmaxxer space. His name is Androgenic. I have no idea how to say his name. You guys can come up with something in the comment sections down below like you always do. But I wanted to talk about it, okay? I wanted to provide some nuance to this conversation because do looks matter? Yes, they do, of course, right? We're human beings. But that doesn't mean go get a big nasty BBL, get like weird fake muscle insertions, actually just shape your jaw with a scalpula. Like that's like not anything that should be accepted, okay? And I wanted to provide an interesting take to this matter. So Androgenic has dropped a video explaining the Looksmaxxing philosophy, and we're gonna talk all about it. So let's get in the flow state and get this show on the fucking road.
What's up, guys? It's been a while. What have I been up to? Well, I was in the US for like 7 weeks doing a few collaborations, but I'm happy to be back in Brisbane. And I want to get back into more informative content, as well as still doing streaming like 2 to 3 times a week. You know, I want to do it all. And in this video, we're just going to be talking about, I reckon we should just talk about the entire Looksmaxxing philosophy, right? Because I think a lot of people think that Looksmaxxers are dumb, their efforts are misplaced, or that we're bad people. So let's address these things. First off, I think the most brutal statistic to ever exist is the 60% pill. Now, what is the 60% pill? The statistic that 60% of men throughout history never passed on their genes. And this was obviously in a time where contraception didn't exist. And so you think about it, wow, 60% of men. Why don't you see them? Why don't you hear about them? Well, obviously for a while we had enforced monogamy, and that allowed, probably allowed some subhumans to get a chance for a little bit. But
I'm actually really happy to make this video because this is one of the few instances where I'm not just immediately roasting someone. I'm dealing with the philosophy of what they're talking about, and it allows me to give just like a fuller, more in-depth view on my thoughts about this matter. And Looksmaxxing, I believe for the most part, appears as something good on the surface. I think a lot of people would agree with the sentiment that, yeah, you should go work out. You should probably put on some nice clothes. You shouldn't fucking walk around with like a nasty ass chewed up shirt that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in a year, okay? But what these guys say, they take it to the extreme. They want you to modify your body. And that's something I just cannot ever agree with. I will never agree with modifying your body. And he also offers like one-on-one coaching. He's like another alpha male life coach grifter, okay? If you're offering one-on-one coaching, in my books, you're a fucking lame, okay? Maybe there are some people out there who legitimately offer one-on-one coaching, but I have yet to see it not be an absolute scam. Now, let's talk about this. Did 60% of men not pass down their genes? Who knows? I have no idea where he's citing this from. I know in the past, it was way harder to clap some cheeks, okay? Just because, like, if you got born into a certain situation, pretty much destroyed, right? I mean, you lived in your village, and whoever was around, that's who you clapped, okay? But I really wonder who the hell he is citing for the 60% number. Yeah, maybe you can comment down below. So let's check out more what he has to say.
60% of men pretty much die alone. They basically never get a single woman in their entire life to impregnate. That's fucking brutal. So the idea is you have to acknowledge the brutality of the world. Yeah, this place kind of sucks for most people. And you have to be one of the few that it doesn't suck for. Right, and that's where Looksmaxxing comes in. Because people get all woo-woo saying, there's more to life than looks, and all this bullshit. Well, I'm sorry to say, but unfortunately we as humans do have primitive desires, right? We want conquest, we want resources, we want love, companionship, reproduction. And ignoring these or suppressing these desires is only going to cause you hardship, right? And a lot of internal conflict. So we understand that, yeah, we have these desires, but we can't ignore them. Now, the question is, how do we achieve them? Well, this comes down to, yeah, what variables cause you to be able to get these, which result in life satisfaction? Well, looks play a part. We know this through observation and through science, right? We have studies on the halo effect,
I think some of the deeper topics that Looksmaxxing is trying to cover is connected to, are you satisfied with life? Do you have fulfillment in life? And can that be attained from looking good, resulting in conquest, like having a bunch of women, power, or whatever, right? And the end result really is like, does that make someone happy from acquiring all that? Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like I kind of scatterbrained that, right? But I just feel like Looksmaxxing is another grift because it's over promising a result, which is pretty much not likely to come to fruition, meaning that you're going to be satisfied. Sure, if you look better, are you going to be able to clap a little bit more skunka cheeks? Sure, but is that going to bring you satisfaction? Because you use the keyword, a certain percentage of men are not going to be able to impregnate anyone. Okay, so if you impregnate someone, is that going to make you satisfied and happy in life? Like, these are actual legitimate questions that I feel like people need to ponder when they're discussing Looksmaxxing, but it's just really overlooked in some cases.
Basically you perceive other people's traits as better if they're better looking. You perceive them to be more trustworthy, have a better personality, etc. And then we've also seen studies on what is known as the beauty premium, where better looking people have better success in relationships and better financial success. And obviously we know that studies show that the top 5 external variables that are most important for life quality and overall, what's the word? I forgot. Life satisfaction, relationships, financial stability, agency, right? So agency and autonomy, feeling like you have control over your own life. And so Looksmaxxing is a great idea.
So Androgenic is basically arguing that the better you look, the better your life is going to be. But he's over-promising things. He's saying, well, you're going to have more of autonomy. You're going to have the right to agency even more than people who are not as good looking. Here, let me make my counter argument. I would debate that these character traits are way more important than looks, which is working hard, having integrity, and being charismatic. I would say those 3 things has a higher chance of guaranteeing you a better life than having some fake ass jawline and basically looking like a fool with broccoli head. Like, being a good person at the end of the day, I believe is going to allow you to have more results, because you have to wonder, okay, if everyone looks like a 10 out of 10, then the distribution is just going to get changed. There's just going to be a new standard of what is the most beautiful. And then we're basically back at square one. But guess what stays in the long run? How good of a fucking person you are, how hard you work, and if you're genuinely likable. Those things are a lot more impactful.
Yeah, we know that these scientifically are the variables that lead to life satisfaction. And then we go down, and like I said, we know that looks do contribute to a lot of these variables. But that's not to say that other variables should be neglected. So a big straw man of the Looksmaxxing sphere is that we place all value on looks. That's ridiculous. Like, yes, I focus on Looksmaxxing as it's a booming niche, but at the end of the day, I think that you should optimize everything. If overall life quality, attractiveness, and respect they come from a pie chart of all different types of things: looks, money, status, personality, overall mind, everything like that, then you should optimize all of those variables. So, for me personally, nowadays, looks are certainly the back of my mind. I don't really think that much about how I look. I like how I look, and I'm more focused on, doing research about pharmacology, psychology, a little bit of philosophy. That's what I'm genuinely interested in on a daily basis. So, it's interesting.
So like I said in the beginning of this video, there is some nuance to this. I would actually agree with him that it's like basically a pie chart, okay? There's like personality, there's status, there's money, there's looks, and so on. But this is the thing that I find really convenient with this segment of the video, is that he wants to argue, well, everyone who criticizes Looksmaxxers claims that the Looksmaxxer community puts all the value on the looks, right? But the thing is, every single time I try to like read about this shit, I go into those communities and just read about what they have to think about. They literally never fucking talk about anything else other than their broccoli head or the shape of their lips, their jaw, how do their abs look. Like, it's never about character. It's never about anything else. So he's entitled to say that it's not all about looks, but every single time I look into this matter, it's always about fucking looks.
Because at the end of the day, everyone can fucking lie to you and, you know, try and tell you it's all going to be okay and that there's someone out there for you. Just be confident, just take a shower. Unfortunately, the statistics simply don't back it up, right? And we unfortunately live in a fucking brutal world. And man, for a while, you know, I wanted to just get some catharsis out of pitying myself back when I was incel, right? It feels very cathartic to just pity myself and say it's, you know, it's so, how am I so unlucky? And just feel bad for yourself. But unfortunately, you cannot monetize pity. And that's one of the most brutal things you have to realize. No one is coming to save you, unfortunately. And the only way you're going to get out of that 60% and live a fulfilling life is if you lock the fuck in my opinion. The only way outside of that is maybe become a monk. And honestly, I looked into that path for a while. Like, I'm very into psychedelics, dampening the ego, and all that. And so that's why I actually find it funny when people try and get all woo-woo on me and say, like, there's more to life than looks. And I'm like, bro, I'm sure
I find it funny at the end, he tries to claim that he has looked into the deeper topics about what I was talking about in the earlier part of this video. But if he really genuinely did like connect with these ideas, he would have realized it's foolish to latch on to the temporary to give you long-term happiness. And that's ultimately, at the end of the day, what is going to happen to every single person who goes down the looksmaxing path. And it's that you will not be fulfilled. The other version of looksmaxing for women, right? I guess maybe I'll be like criticized for this part of the video, right? You can comment down below. It's an ongoing discussion, okay? Maybe I would argue that looksmaxing for women in this day and age kind of looks in the form of BBLs, you know, having massive tetas, all these augmentations. But I'm pretty sure if you interview a bunch of these women, they're not going to be happier just because that shit is clapping louder, okay? I honestly find that this obsession with looks will ultimately lead to no fulfillment at the end of the day.
And I think it goes without saying, if you do want to ascend, there is genuinely no better person to look to than me. The transformation that I've had, I think, overall, in the entire Looksmaxxing PSL space, I have changed my entire reality more than any other person. I was that screwy fucking incel, and my life was pretty dog shit. And the life I've built for myself now, I look completely different, head to toe. And I'm still not peaked yet, don't get me wrong. My hair's still growing in. I'm getting more surgeries up and coming, just small ones, you know, just fine-tuning things. I already, as I said, am very happy with how I look. And, you know, the success that my appearance has gotten me now is, you know, pretty top tier. I'm very grateful. And so, yeah, if you want to completely change your reality, like how I did, and, you know, change your looks and lock the fuck in, then you can join my course or you can get private coaching.
Is dude clapping more cheeks than what he used to? Of course, but that was never my argument the entire time of this video. You may get more money from having better looks. You may have more women with better looks, but you sure as hell are not gonna have a more fulfilled life. I don't really care what anyone has to say in the looksmaxer space. Just ask them maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and we'll find out what the true answer is. But at the end of the day, it's just a grift. I mean, he gave this speech to people who are vulnerable. They're in a very insecure position. This is the same type of formula we've seen time and time again, right, in the AMU. And then it's a sales pitch, really, at the end of the day. I mean, he's framing it as ascended. Other guys will say something else. Everyone has their own catchphrase when they're a grifter. But it was all just a sales pitch to ascend. Oh my gosh, man. So if you enjoyed this video, if you were engaged with a thoughtful discussion, I feel like this was definitely a different video. We usually just laugh, constantly make fun. But I also want to make other of content that really explores some of the deeper topics about what we discuss here in the AMU. So with that being said, if you enjoyed it, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and swing on by the Discord where there's 24/7 community conversation. Until the next time, guys, later.